Newsletters is an interesting topic. There was a time that people would be writing blogs and they'd be writing newsletters, and suddenly, all of a sudden, when Instagram and YouTube and everything came out to be, and data got cheaper, people suddenly flocked to video. But then they sort of made a comeback recently because of Substack. While Facebook was dying and we thought text was dead, Twitter became very popular. Yeah, newsletters are very much alive. There is this guy who's cashing in big on newsletters. We have with us Arnav Jalan. He runs an agency where he helps or where he craft very engaging newsletters for some of the biggest creators and companies in India, and does a great job with them. And that's why he's been able to do well for himself. That's the topic that we're going to dive into today. Tell us a little bit about newsletters and how you ended up, diving into newsletters and making it a niche for yourself in 2023. How did that happen?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, newsletters is something, like you said, that's been around for a while now. The first place that I got onto was emails, not Instagram, not Twitter, not any place else. So I've been like, my inbox today is already full. I've had to unfortunately take a subscription just to expand the amount of emails I've taken from Google, right? Because I've never kind of portal. I think that's actually a very good starting point. Around 2 years ago, I got an opportunity to kind of, work with someone who left Google Dublin and started his own startup. One of the things that I started doing was actually making memes and putting on a website called Buddia. We spent ad money and we essentially got traffic then. We monetized on it, right? Just memes, right? 4 months later, he's like, hey, do you want to service YouTube, work on a cool learning and development project? I started leading L&D for the whole Asia Pacific, Times, Hindu, whatnot, on how to monetize video inventory for them better on YouTube partner sales. And that's when I realized that, okay, there's so much money to be made in news, right? We became a daily newsletter, grew to 15K subs, 6 countries, 33% open rates. We understood what was working, what wasn't working. And then I was like, okay, I started looking at my emails and I'm like, yeah, these newsletters are really, really boring. They're plain. They weren't adding value. It felt like they were very deprioritized or low effort, right? And I was like, maybe I can actually make a difference here. And that's when we pivoted to an agency. Long story short, we started pitching to people, starting with design, content, starting a newsletter in the first place. And today we are a newsletter agency. So that's the story behind it.
That's an interesting story, but let me make it a little more exciting by asking you the stats. You were like, hey, newsletters are boring. We're making it interesting. But where is the validation? Is your format really working well? Are you able to hit any new heights? Throw some numbers at me.
Across all our clients today, around 15 odd so clients, we're averaging an open rate of 43 to 44%, and our submission rates on AMP are surprisingly 1 or 2% lower than the click.
Break it down to me like I'm 5. What is the AMP?
Sure. Let's go down back to the basics, right?
Sure.
Emails historically for the last decade or decades has been read only, right? You get an email, you read it, you probably click on it or you reply to it. If it's a promotional newsletter, or it's any kind of email that looks designed, you're never going to reply to it usually, right? If I send an email saying, hey, Abhinav, huge fan, let's work together, you probably reply.
I know you've sent it via an automated software. I'm never going to reply to it.
Yeah, fair enough. But if I say, hey, Abhinav, I saw your podcast with Arnav and really like this about you and I liked your frame, where did you get that mic from?
I may reply to that.
Correct, right? So that's when we realized that, okay, emails are really boring because people don't have anything to do with them. So when we thought of ENP elements, it's as simple as thinking of how do you make a newsletter interactive?
Interactive, I can place orders or I can play video or I can do form submission.
So I think most of them, but let's say you get an email from Myntra, right? And you're like, okay, I want to get a discount code. Instead of just going and saying you have 20% discount, you have to spin the wheel in the email. You click on it, it spins in the email. And you actually get a live choice of maybe a 5 or 10%. And you're like, shit, I missed this 20%, but I got 10%. And you go and do it, right? That fun of it just moving is what's going to be wow, right? See, the main way to look at it is you have no friction, right? You don't need to be redirected to another website to actually do things. Everything can be done from the email.
Got it. Okay, cool. Now, what's the secret formula? What's the secret sauce? What's common? The open rate that's common is around 20-ish%. The click rate that's common is around 2 to 3%. What are you doing?
I don't think it's a one size fits all, right? If I tell you the most generic... So
you can tell me the mindset. I'm sure, there is no one size fits all, but there is some sort of a mindset.
For sure, yeah. So I'll tell you the current mindset in place of email marketers. They're like, hey, we'll make the quirkiest subject line and we're going to skyrocket open rates.
Clickbaiting.
Clickbaiting is there, right? It's definitely there, but it's not anywhere close to getting you those rates, right? More than anything, if you're giving out a newsletter, right, and people know what it's in it because you keep sending the same thing every week and they're not interested in it.
Mm.
Regardless of the subject line, they won't have the incentive or the motivation to open it, right? And I think that's the mindset, right? The first thing is start caring about your audience, start understanding what they like, start understanding what they don't like, right? After that, I think you've got to start understanding that you've got a ton of people who are cold, right? Most people, when they do emails, they're sending out the same list and they don't understand who's cold and who's not cold. When I say who's cold, we define it internally as people who've not opened your newsletter for the last 12 weeks in a row. You're like, okay, that is a problem because the way domain reputation works, right? With a score given to your domain to kind of tell whether your email lands in promotion or spam is also one of the factors that play a role is if people mark it as spam, right? But if people also not opening it consistently, Google or some kind of provider will think that you're spamming them because they're consistently sending emails that people aren't opening, which will eventually ruin your domain reputation. So you've got to do something about these cold subscribers, right? Like, how do you do that? A lot of people just remove that. They're like, okay, let's not send it to them. And I think that's the worst mistake, according to me, right? You've got to start thinking, how do I get them back? How do I win their trust back, right? How do I do something that'll make them believe in me again? Very small example is write them a personal email, right? Hey, I've noticed that you haven't opened my emails 12 weeks in a row.
So you create a different segment of these guys and reach out to them very differently. Hey, I put in a lot of effort to give you value. And in case you guys have, somehow for some reason started to not like me, then maybe, we should end the relationship and you should unsubscribe so that my engagement rates don't suffer and my, domain reputation doesn't
jump
suffer
too fast there though.
Huh?
You jump to the unsubscribe part. You don't be that harsh in the first email.
I mean, I've gotten a few emails like that. So
we call that a sunset email. So we first try to get them back, right? So we try incentivizing them saying, hey, like we noticed you've not opened it for 12 weeks in a row. Have I done something wrong? Is something boring? Tell me, I'm listening to you. Give me feedback. I'll personally reply to you. If they don't reply to that too, that's when we send a sunset email, right? Which is like, hey, I think like, we need to end this relationship. If you actually care, like you can click the thumbs up, otherwise do. So we do that too, yeah.
Cool. So this is what I've understood so far from you about the formula. There doesn't seem to be like one size fits all formula, but this is the mindset. Tell me more. Watch your analytics, make different segments of your analytics, treat them, give them different treatment, and deeply care about your people. What else? How to create content, how to write your newsletters, how to engage people. I think that there should be something around that as well.
The way about content creation, right, is that you've got to have like the Gen Z word is vibe, right? What is the vibe, right? Like what is the vibe you're kind of wanting to kind of communicate with, and then you have to stick to that, right? And at the end, if you're not giving value, if you're not adding something that people are actually going to get something out of, they're not going to open it, right?
What do you mean by adding more value? I mean, this is a very thrown around term. Answer to everything is value. What is value?
Value is very subjective. Spot on, right? I'll give you a very simple example. If you're a university, you can send out a newsletter saying, I have a webinar. Is that going to add more value? Probably to a small amount of people. If you send out an email to these leads or like prospects who are about to kind of apply, saying that, hey, I will take in questions from you and answer in the next week. Are you providing a lot more value? Yes, because you're solving questions of theirs live, which a lot of people would have, but they aren't probably asking. Value is dependent on the company that's sending out the newsletter or the person that's sending out the newsletter and the audience. It's not something that I can define as a one size fits all. Again, I know I say this a lot, but value is different to different people.
Okay, got it. Cool. Now, I mean, we've spoken about a lot of, philanthropic stuff, how to give this, how to give and engage people, how to cater to people, how to serve people. But tell me, how do we make money off people? I mean, you charge your clients, I understand that. Yeah. But how do your clients make money off their audience via the newsletters that you write? What is the difference between an engaging email versus a money-making email? I'm going to do a free promotion of Coca-Cola in the middle of this. Go ahead.
Perfect. Coca-Cola, go sponsor, and me. Anyways, if you want newsletters to kind of monetize through your products, right? Like let's say you're a SaaS tool or you're any company, but you're not selling anything but your own products or services. The only way you can do that is by nurturing your leads personally. You keep giving them all the value we spoke about on a regular basis, right? And then when time comes, you can leverage them with the way I call it is a plug. So plug is essentially that in the middle of your newsletter, you draw their attention to something you want to sell, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, But the anyway is expecting that newsletter. So you're not sending another email. All of a sudden, they see something different in the newsletter. It stands out.
We've created so much content, both you and I, that we tend to think of the entire paragraph as a flow of everything, a waveform, but the audience probably cannot. So why don't you share your screen and show us something like this? Show me a salesy email.
Okay, it's not salesy, but I'll show you like how, like one of the clients we work with, Finance with Sharan, how we do it for him, right? Sure. So this is an email that goes out every week, right? There are two kinds of emails: the audience who's bought his product, who won't get the plug, and the audience who's not bought his product, who'll get the plug, right? Okay. So it's different segments, right? So obviously the main reason this newsletter goes out is for people to learn, right? So it could be news that's going on around. It could be about, life cycle of an Indian and how, about money, what Sharan talks about, right? Maybe a comic. A lot of this is value, right? You just invest 40,000, whatnot. I'm done with my desk job, things around these lines. And then all of a sudden in the middle of this is you get this plug, right? Which is like a kind of like an ad spot for his own, club, where if you want to do it, you kind of click here. And what you'll be surprised about is that one of the highest amount of clicks actually come here.
So create a box of sorts.
You can say box, yes, essentially, right? A box of sorts, in a sense of it. It's a very subtle, like we call it like a native ad a lot of times, right? But like, and it's not like it's flashy, but it's not taking away. It doesn't make the newsletter feel like a promotional email.
But does this box have to be on every newsletter that you send?
Not necessarily. You can do it once a month. Like I said, keep nurturing your leads and then leverage it. For us, like we used to do it once a month, and now we do it every newsletter, and here it works every newsletter. Okay,
cool. But tell me about a little bit about segmentation. Now, in your newsletters, do you not do segmentation? Because you said, hey, what if someone? Okay, do you put the new joinees of the newsletters through a different onboarding sequence, and there is one, there is a one universal email?
There are automations in place for sure. So like if you subscribe and you're new, you'll get an automation in place which says, welcome. If you want to kind of keep receiving these newsletters, reply with yes, or like hell yes or something, right? For instance, with an education institution we work with, they want to segment all their new applications or new leads differently from their old leads, right? Or all the people who saw the application earlier, right? So depending on which week people have started like the application, we segment it differently. In what sense we're doing it is that we're just sending it to different audience segments. It's the same newsletter. It just helps us track it better.
I understood what you're saying, but for audience to decipher it better is what Arnav does is he creates cohorts. He creates cohorts of people basis certain date. You could create cohorts by month. You could create cohorts by week. Week is very optimal if you have a lot of, if you have a really big list. Probably 10, 12 weeks into the journey, you will find different patterns emerging. And, you'll probably realize that, hey, week 3 guys performed very badly compared to all other weeks. Why? Because week 3 traffic came from some shit source. So, that's the way to analyze. That's basically what you're saying.
That's one way, right? I think with segmentation, there are multiple ways. One is this. The other is like, obviously, you will also segment the people who are cold, right? And then who are re-engaged. So one of the things we spoke about is the cold subscribers. And then we send them a follow-up email and we try to get them back, right? Once you've gotten them back, it doesn't always mean you've gotten them back, right? So they'll say that, okay, you know what? I want to subscribe. But at the end, again, they'll stop opening your emails, right? So you have to track them separately again. So we'll track these guys as another cohort or sorts, right?
Got it. Okay, cool. So Arnav, you spoke to us about finance with Sharan. Who does the content for them? Do you do the content for them? If you do the content for them, the biggest question that anyone would have, hey, if I'm a content creator, I would want to create most of my content myself. Bro, otherwise, like, what's the point? If I'm not putting my original insight into the content, if I'm just a preacher, then it's very inauthentic, and you can more often than not see through it.
At least 70% to 80% of plans, we do end-to-end content design, deliverability, subject lines, every single thing. For that small 20% who are like very, very like, hey, I need to write my content. I want that authentic, my thought, my feeling content. We're okay with that. We do the rest of it.
Tell me one thing. So, is that my thing, my content, my brain, my insight? Do you think that's a bias for those 20% of the clients? If you really sat down and cracked their format, you would very easily be able to ghostwrite for them.
For sure.
You think so? Yeah. Okay.
100%.
Interesting. What do you need as ingredients? Let's say you were to, because ghostwriting as a profession has existed for really, really long. I don't think Donald Trump has written any of his books. They've all been ghostwritten.
Yeah. So I think that like ghostwriting is easier for people who are giving gyan than for people who are not narrating stories, right? Because stories are things that we can't like make up for them, right?
Yeah.
We need to
You
know the
can't ghostwrite for
stories.
J.K. Rowling.
I mean, unless GPT can. But anyways, that's beside the point. Then it's very similar to like AI, right? Like how is AI picked up on training, right? You feed it data, it learns,
Mm.
and it's able to kind of produce. It's very
Mm.
similar with humans. We go and stalk like the people we have to, right? Like let's say it's an education institute. We'll stalk their website. We'll stalk their website, the way the copy is written, the way it's structured. We'll stalk all their Instagram, their tweets, their LinkedIn posts. We'll see the YouTube videos on their interviews and how they talk, how they communicate. And from there, it's very easy for us to pick it up because we have a lot to understand. And then when you compare them side by side, what our writers have written and what's there, you can tell that, okay, does it sound different? No. And at the end of the day, the client has to approve it before it goes out, right? So you do usually see them approving. It's rare that they don't.
I understand when you think of topics, but how do you, I mean, there are always a range of topics. How do you select that one topic that's going to engage the audience a lot? Are there any frameworks around that?
I'll give you my 2 cents on it. A very simple example with an education institute we work with, they were first just sending out a lot of news to their students, right? Like business news.
Hmm.
And in my head, I felt like the students wanted to trust that. They were like, what are the success stories from a university? News is fine, right? We'll get news. But I want to know what are the success stories because I can't find it anywhere but YouTube, and I don't want to see a 1 hour video.
Wait, isn't that more of a salesy thing? Because for college, alumni is for sales.
Yeah.
Showing the alumni is what gets them new students, right?
Correct.
With this business school that you're working with, used to send a lot of news, but then you started sending case studies from that college itself
Correct.
or school itself, and that saw engagement, which is a little surprising. I mean, I would be.
I'll tell you why. That's the difference.
With engagement.
That's the difference. Instead of positioning that, hey, this is a student of ours and like you should become like them, we said, nah, right? Like, let's make people think. Don't just sell, right? So what did we do? And I can actually share my like screen so you'll have a bit of an understanding, right? So this is
What software do you use for this?
mail motor.
Oh shit.
Pre-plugged.
Okay.
So this is one of our clients, Masters Union. We have an asset called Multiplexer.
Mhm.
And I'll give you a small example, right? So we used to send news for that. One of the things we understood was, obviously, we first spoke about like the students, right? So credit as you, the subject line is literally your credit statement. And this worked out really well because the main thing is to learn more about the program. So like you said, this might be a salesy approach, but where do we talk about success or successful case studies, right? Instead of advertising it as a case study, right? We take interviews of students. Like let's say Sonakshi, right? She was a student of Masters Union. We took an interview of her to understand more about a startup. Instead of just like saying, okay, look, learn from Sonakshi, you can be like her. We said, how do you think she was able to acquire raw materials when she needed to begin her next batch? The small context, she started a company which was doing minutes, right? And she encountered an issue with supply chain. And we were like, okay, how did she solve that issue of supply chain, right? We could have just written about her and spoke about how cool she is. But then we made it into a case study. And then we said, okay, people actually chose one of these options, right?
Like a question paper problem statement with 5 marks as the answer.
And the main thing is students love solving, right? Like if they know that they're going to win a case study because case study competitions are a thing. Like, who I won a case study, I'm going to get into the school. I can tell everyone I won a case study competition, right?
Nice.
So we kind of gamified that, and then we said, okay, I submitted it, and then they're incentivized to win, right? They probably get like coffee with the director, a profile evaluation from the admissions team, some merchandise like a hoodie or bottle. And then we talk about last week, right? So they know what was the last week answer, which makes them go back and open last week. So they hosted a hackathon and awarded this, and then we show like what people responded, right? So they also understand that were they in the same boat as others, were they different, things around these lines, right?
Yeah, this is super cool. Is there any repository that you have online? Because people would love to steal some of these templates, and I think, I mean, you know, it's good to seek inspiration from these.
I'm waiting for Mailmodo to start archives feature.
Hey, there should be a hall of fame, guys. Mailmodo guys in the chat, if you're listening, there should be a hall of fame for people like Arnav. That's like a free, how do I say, customer-led marketing for you. Cool, man. I mean, these are concepts that, you know, polling people, and polling is allowed on email because of Mailmodo. So polling people and then showing them results from last month and then turning the entire case study into that. I mean, it's like, it's very deep level of thinking that it combines a few very familiar formats, but done very well. Super, man. This was amazing. This was super nice. And I think this is going to make for some very educational bites in the repurposing of this content. Lovely having you, Arnav.
Thank you, guys. Yep.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you, man. Thank you for your time. See you. Bye.